Welcome to a new episode of the Electrek Podcast. I am Fred Lambert, your host, and as usual, I'm joined by Seth Winshaw, who's back home in New York City. How you doing, Seth?
I'm good.
Perfect. All right, we have a big show today. A lot of news happened this week, and we're gonna start out with a bit of personal news. But no, it's not that personal. It was the big story yesterday that we posted, where I divested completely from Tesla. I sold all my shares, and I put some sort of my thesis together, kind of a long post if you haven't seen it, where I explained why I sold. Like, if you've been following the podcast for a while, you probably have a good idea of most of my points that are in there. It's not something that happened overnight. It's something that gradually have been, there's some main reason that I listed in there, and the main reason are the mission. So I invested originally in Tesla's mission because I thought that combination of battery-powered vehicles with the ethical sourcing of those battery materials, combined with battery recycling and increasing renewable electricity production through solar, wind, hydro, geothermal, and whatever else. A combination of all those things together would be the only sensible way to decarbonize the transportation sector and make it sustainable long-term, because obviously fossil fuels are a finite resource. And I thought that Tesla was the only pure play on that mission, really. I think, and to this day, I think they have also accomplished that in a big way. They have accelerated the transition in a massive way, which I'm really grateful to Tesla for that. But I feel like now that mission, and obviously Tesla has updated that mission since then, but they have walked away a little bit from it, and I think it's just not a priority anymore. And, Elon himself says that Tesla is now about AI. It's an AI company. It's about self-driving. It's about humanoid robots, which I think are cool, but they're just not really what I invested in. And also, they only work. A lot of people, since I wrote this article, made the argument that the self-driving thing is also contribute to that mission, because if you combine self-driving with these electric vehicles, it's going to accelerate the deployment and the utilization rate of electric vehicles, which I think is true. I think maybe not as much as what Tesla thinks. I know, especially what Elon has been talking about with the utilization rate of the autonomous ride-hailing fleet operated by customer vehicles. I don't think that will get the utilization rate that Elon has been talking about. But anyway, I think that point is still correct. However, it only works if self-driving works, and my doubts around self-driving at Tesla has increased a lot over the last few months, specifically. And over the last few days, really, and we're going to get into that a little bit, because one of the other articles that we're going to discuss today is Tesla's release of its self-driving AI roadmap, at least a roadmap for the next few months that they released. And so that was the main point. I did a little thank you to a lot of people that got me into Tesla, by the way, in that. So I should thank them for that, including Elon himself. I gave credit to Elon's Tesla Secret Master Plan. That is probably the biggest factor that got me into Tesla, because when he described that plan, it's the first time that it made sense to me that electric vehicles could become mainstream by following this plan of making a high-end electric vehicles without any compromise versus a gas-powered car, and then using the knowledge and the money that you get from that. The money, it didn't end up being a lot of money, but still, the knowledge and then the credibility to raise more money, to do a higher volume vehicle at a cheaper price, and so on. And that worked out for Tesla pretty well. And so, Elon, master plan, Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning, the two original co-founders at Tesla that, are kind of forgotten in the Tesla history, unfortunately, not partly because of Elon's own effort, to make them forgotten, and
almost completely because of Elon.
Yeah, he's worked very hard to discredit them as being a significant part of Tesla. Even though they are the original two co-founders, there has been a lawsuit since then that have included 3 other people as co-founders, including Elon, JB Straubel, and Wright, Mr. Wright. I forget his first name.
Ian maybe?
Ian Wright. I think you're right. Good memory, said. I'm pretty sure you're right. So yeah, especially Eberhard and Tharpening, they helped me a lot because I started looking at some of their lecture they were given at the time about the Tesla thesis and how it's possible to go full electric. Meaning, I'm not saying a full electric car is possible, but meaning the entire transportation industry can go full electric, battery electric. They broke it down. They did the math before even starting Tesla. They did the math on that based on lithium-ion batteries at the time too. Obviously, they have improved a lot since then, and why it's also a necessity to do it. So they helped me a lot for that. So I gave them a lot of credit for that. They're a great early communicator of the need for an electric revolution, I think.
I mean, in a way, they convinced Elon as well.
I mean, Elon, his whole point is that he was into electric vehicles way before these two guys and all that, which I believe, he was at Stanford doing ultra capacitors for potential electric vehicles at the time. So I'm sure he was into it, but I don't know. I don't know if he was. I don't know how deep he was in lithium-ion batteries and consumer lithium-ion batteries, because Eberhard and Tharpening, their big thing was always, they had experience with consumer electronics because they just did battery-powered e-readers. And they sold that business. So they had experience with that, and they felt like, with the increase in capacity of lithium-ion consumer electronic batteries, we could just combine them together and make an electric vehicles with that. So I don't know where Elon was on that at the time. So yeah, you're right. There might be them that convinced Elon to that. But yeah, there was a bunch of things that I credit Tesla's success around, including the vision of these two guys. Elon's vision also and leadership was very helpful. I'm sure, 100% sure, his early funding of Tesla. I think he financed out of the first $200 million at Tesla, he financed like 70 million of it himself, which is obviously like a lot. If that didn't happen, Tesla probably wouldn't happen. Then there was a lot of like top people at Tesla that was very critical, like JB Straubel that I just mentioned, Drew Baglino that recently left, unfortunately, was one of their first engineering employees. Deepak Ahuja was on the first big hire in 2008 as CFO, from Ford. He helped a lot, gave Tesla a lot of credibility. Helped them get the financials together and brought Tesla towards profitability. Then Franz van Halsen, obviously, chief designer, and many more. A bunch of investors helped a ton too, including Daimler and Toyota. But one thing that I also mentioned here that is very important that helped Tesla's success is government support, which is, in the headlines a lot lately because of Elon's support for Trump that wants to kill all government support of EVs. And I think that is undeniable that without government support, Tesla would have failed. I know that Elon likes to say, because a lot of people refer to the loan that Tesla got in 2009 from the government as what saved the company. And Elon says that no, it didn't save the company. The Daimler and Toyota investment saved the company. But you know what? The Daimler and Toyota investment would have never happened without California's CARB initiative. Because the reason that Daimler and Toyota invested into Tesla was for Tesla to help them convert their own smart car, Mercedes Class B and Toyota RAV4 into BEVs to sell them specifically in California to answers to not be fined by the state due to the regulation. So obviously tremendous support, and that's not obviously also talking about all the direct grants that Tesla received, government-backed loans. Obviously, the federal tax credit also helped a ton. The IRA helped a ton, the solar credit and all that. So government supports what's big. Also credit passionate owners that helped a lot, or self-included, and passionate retail investors, which was the last one for me. Was until yesterday. So then I see that I don't want to, because I'm selling right now. I don't want to act like this never happened, that Tesla never had any success. Tesla had a ton of success. But there was a shift in the last few years that I just don't agree with. I don't feel part of the AI shift that Elon has included. And I'm not like belittling the AI technology, self-driving robots and all that. I think that all these technologies are very important to the future, are going to happen on, I don't know the timeline exactly, but I'm sure they're going to happen. But I mean, AI is already happening. There's certain degrees, self-driving is already happening. All of these are already happening on certain degree, but on the degrees that Tesla wants to, I think it's going to take a while. And in the meantime, what I feel like is because of that focus on that is that the electric vehicle programs have suffered. And I think there's now better evidence of that than the fact that Tesla is seeing for the first time in a decade its yearly deliveries go down. Like Tesla is now 2024 tracking to be down in deliveries versus 2023. So I think that's obvious. Also, Elon canceling a bunch of EV programs recently, firing the entire charging teams. All these things are like not bad for EV growth. Just focus on the AI and self-driving. So that was one of the main issues. The other issue is the leadership. I don't trust Elon Musk anymore. There's just too many lies, too many misinformation, too many erratic behavior, wanting to fight Mark Zuckerberg and then checking him out and all that stuff is just not great for credibility.
Yeah.
And the BOD to the board of director not reining him in during all this madness. It's hard to be invested in a company that you don't trust the CEO and you don't trust the board of director. Big red flag.
Yep.
And then the reason, like, obviously, I say all of that, and like a lot of people are like, why are you selling now then? Because you've been talking about that stuff for years. You're right. I was naive, and I thought that two things could happen. Elon could somehow snap out of his social media addiction-fueled madness, or that the shareholders will give him the boot, which brings me to my last point, that I feel completely on the line with the Tesla shareholder base anymore. Yeah, completely on the line, really. And that was evident from the vote of the stock option package. That was, 73% of the shareholders voted for it. And I was not shocked by that. I thought there was a real possibility. I thought it would be closer to, 50%. But when I saw 73%, okay, yeah, I'm like, it's going to be a hard time trying to get, because when you're on the line with the shareholders of a company you invested in, you have two options, really. You can either try to get those shareholders on your side, or you can sell. And I tried my best for the last 2 or 3 years, and I couldn't. So yeah, I think the other option is selling. And yeah, I thought that the shareholder vote was like perfect timing, because this thing had been dragging on for years. This lawsuit that was undoubtedly initiated by greedy lawyers that wanted to get money, no doubt. But a judge followed the law to the point and gave shareholders an opportunity to tell Tesla, to tell the board of directors, to tell Elon Musk that they deserve proper governance. They cannot be run like a family business, like Kogwan said beautifully. And I thought perfect timing. Elon just threatens to breach his fiduciary duty to shareholders if he doesn't get 25% control of the company. He canceled all of Tesla's employees' stock option right before his own stock option vote. So like, all right, his stock options are important, but not the ones of employees. Like that, I thought that the shareholder base would see through that and see the hypocrisy of it. But instead, they like convince themselves that, it's the right thing to do to give more money to the richest man in the world that just took money from his employees. So I'm like, I cannot support that. And I thought there would be a shift in the shareholders from there. And I just don't see that shift happening. So I'm like, all right, I'll just give up on being invested.
So the big news on that is now Tesla's down 8%, according to Mick D. Forerunner on Fred's divestment news. Right. That's a lot of money you cost the company there.
Yeah. That's not. There's been a bunch of people that reached out to me from my article. I'm like, I think the article resonated with a lot of people.
Yeah, I did.
Depending on where you go, like if you read the comments, I think there's like 400 comments on that article. Most of them very positive. A lot of them are like, "Oh, this you took the thought right over my head. It's like it's what I've been feeling for a while, and now you articulated them, and thank you." So appreciate all those great comments. If you're on X though, and you look it up, it's a very different world there. But most of those people didn't even read the article. Like I put just a quick summary of the reasons. And then I link the article, and most people don't click the link. They just read the reason and trash me because they see me as the enemy and whatever. So I did receive a lot of emails from people that says that they're going to divest too at the same time, but I don't think to a level that would justify like erasing $50 billion of the value of the company. Obviously, I don't think that's the case. I'm just joking when I say this is my fault. But so it's the end of an era for me. I've been a Tesla shareholder for like 14 years.
Wow.
And I am no more. It's look, I'm still willing to go back in, obviously, if if things change, if Elon's get the boot finally, or even I'm not against second chances. I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but if Elon just magically wakes up from this stupor and he's like, mea culpa, I screwed up, I was addicted to social media and it brought me into a path of madness and all that, I'm like, all right, I'll give it a shot. Because a lot of people say that I'm being naive as hell and that Elon was always like that, and I just could not see. I wanted to talk to you about that, actually, Seth, because I feel like you have always been, you've been a Tesla fan for forever and all that, but you were not as much of an Elon fan as I was, even early on, I think. So I feel like you'd be a good person to talk about that. Because a lot of people tell me like that I'm wrong, that Elon didn't change, and that he was always like that. I just couldn't see it. And so, I resistance to that. I don't know about you. What do you think?
So do you remember that early CNN interview with where he just got the McLaren and his first wife, Justine, was there?
Yeah, 1999, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that, I don't know. That I saw that and I was like, all right, this is, I mean, he had, a bunch of facial surgery after that and hair plugs and, all the other stuff. Mm-hmm. But like, he's still kind of the same person. And, he was just very bombastic, I guess. And, he was very full of himself. And I guess that, that was kind of him before like handlers and him before. And, I kind of felt like that was like the person that we were dealing with. I was willing to kind of forego all that stuff. Like early on Tesla, I was gung-ho. Obviously, I had every single Tesla that, Model X, Model S, Model Y, Model 3. I totally believed in the mission. It was a little sketch on Elon himself. I remember when the pedo guy thing came out, I was like, that's really like bad, a bad sign, bad feeling about that. And then I think I was just a little bit, not, I don't want to say ahead of you on the curve, but like I was a little bit more pessimistic earlier on him coming out of it or him going in the right direction. And
yeah, that's fair.
And we've talked about like how he's surrounded by yes people, nobody, like you can see from the outside like he doesn't have anybody he trusts or anybody. There's nobody that is around him that can tell him, hey dude, lay off the Twitter a little bit, whatever, and you're not doing the good thing here. So in a way it's a little sad. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have somebody he trusts that can give him good advice. He's surrounded by people that are either out for themselves, trying to climb the Elon friend chain and get the most financial reward or whatever out of it. So I don't know, in a way it's sad, but he's still quite powerful. I mean, he's kind of turned into a Lex Luthor type supervillain in a lot of ways, with his space stuff and internet, like blocking internet to Ukraine and all that stuff. It's weird because he's like dealing on the level of nation states like a supervillain would.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. My counter argument to that is only which is not completely a counter argument, but like just more an explanation of justification for why I think that there's been a shift, other than my pure observation, is that the fact, the giant following that he has on social media, like 200 million people on X, minus a few million bots, and the cult of personality around him, both things are undeniable, they're real. These things have an impact on someone. Like,
for sure.
You referenced the 1999 interview where he got his McLaren. Like, that's a 28-year-old, whatever, I think it's something like that. That's a 28-year-old that just got like $30 million in cash. It affects someone when that happens. Like, and we see how it affected him then. He was like you said, very like a little bit full of himself, a bit like, yeah, I mean, there's only like one of them in the US right now. It's mine. Things like that. So that's fair. And then, but what happened in the last few years is this incredible growth of influence on social media, combined with a social media addiction, combined with a giant fan base that are completely consumed by the cult of personality around him. All those things affect someone, and I think we're seeing the effect on him right now. A lot of the trait that you're seeing were probably already there. I'm probably right, and I couldn't see them, and all those things have amplified them. I think that's probably it. But I mean, if I didn't see a lot of it, it's like mea culpa on me. I really don't know. Also, like, to be completely fair too, I'm not like, I want to hope that if I had the life of Elon Musk, I wouldn't end up like, retweeting some Nazi nonsense and all that. But at the same time, like, I just don't know how I would have reacted if I had the kind of.
It's hard. It's hard to imagine like getting that kind of ego boost every day. And also, like, it's clear he had some,
tough
autistic
childhood.
spectrum stuff
too.
going on. So, you add those together, and who knows, like, if somebody was, millions of people were telling me I was God every day, I think I would probably be a really messed up person.
Yeah, a lot of people literally believe he's some like demigod or something like that. Like, it's wild. It's a wild thing to see. All right, end of an era. Fred is not invested in Tesla anymore, and Seth has like infinitely more share than me, like 5 or something like that.
15 because of the split, but yeah.
Okay, I ended my post, by the way. That post, I ended it with a side note of like what happened if Tesla solves self-driving, because this is something that I know that it's keeping a lot of people inside Tesla right now as an investor, is the fact that, like, all right, but they could solve, like, tomorrow morning, they could solve self-driving and unlock a tremendous amount of value, and then you're gonna have some FOMO, but there's no FOMO for this mofo, because I'm made peace with that. Like, the first to admit that if that happens, yes, there's going to be a tremendous value creation. Not as much as a lot of Tesla investors think, though, but yes, a fairly huge. Maybe Tesla goes to 500 and then over time to 1,000, like a few $1 trillion at best. Not the $10 trillion talking about, but still. The only thing is, like, I don't see that happening anytime soon or before competition. And this is why, because Tesla this week released their AI product and self-driving roadmap. And there it is. So September 2024, this month, Tesla plans to launch V12.5.2, which is rolling out right now, with about 3% improvement in miles between necessary intervention. Then they say releasing that on the hardware 3 computer and a unified model between hardware 3 and between hardware 3 and hardware 4. Because right now there's a smaller model that runs on hardware 3. Actually, Star Summon that was starting to be rolled out this week. Cybertruck Autopark, high tracking with sunglasses, because now V12.5 brings the no nags about touching the steering wheel. But for that, you need to track the eyes, the gaze of the driver. and that right now only works without sunglasses, so they're working on that. Remerging the end-to-end network on highway, which was gone since V12, or V12.5. I'm not sure. V11 was since V12, I think. Then FSD on Cybertruck also this month, apparently. Moving on to next month, we have unpark, park, and reverse in FSD. So FSD is going to be like closer to like an end-to-end, like just to destination completely. Then V13 is coming next month. And apparently going to have a 6-time improve on miles between necessary intervention. And then Q1 2025, FSD in Europe, pending regulatory approval, and in China, pending regulatory approval. That's it. That's what was released.
I think the most excitement came from Europe. FSD in Europe was, a lot of people were super excited about that.
Yeah, but that's also a delay because that was supposed to come this year, just a few months ago. A few months ago, Elon said that was coming this year. Now it's coming next year if we go through approval. So I don't know why people get excited about that. Same thing for China. And then obviously the big thing that is missing is like, unsupervised level 4 or level 5 self-driving. Like where is this on this map? Elon said by the end of this year or early next year, and this is not on there. Not only it's not on there, they're talking about, end of the year having a 6-time improvement in miles between necessary intervention. Over what is my question on that? Like Tesla has never released miles between intervention or necessary intervention ever. So 6-time increase over what? Over the 3-time increase over the V12.5.2 that we also don't have.
Maybe it's a big math problem. They're gonna put together, like they're gonna give you one number and then you have to work your way backwards to get all the variables.
Jeez, I hope not. So there's no data. We don't have any of that data. Tesla has never released it. What we have is the crowdsourced data. So we're gonna give a quick update on that because we do every week. And this data, which has been acknowledged by Elon. Elon commented on it a few weeks ago. He said, "Yeah, it's looking good. It's gonna get a 2x improvement in August," which didn't happen. So what do we look at? And by the way, V12.4 was supposed to get a 5 to 10x improvement in miles between intervention. Not only didn't happen, Tesla never even wide release V12.4, and then now V12.5 is supposed to get a 3x improvement instead of the 5 to 10 that 12.4 was supposed to get. So, already we're starting to get into a lot of nonsense. And then if you look at the data right now, all the version combined, because we don't have enough data to just like a single version, but if you average out the V12.5.1 version altogether, you get 32 miles between disengagement and intervention, and 128 miles between critical disengagement, which would be the equivalent, I assume, of Tesla's necessary disengagement or necessary intervention. And that compares to the last wide release that Tesla had, V12.3.6, earlier this year, that had 30 miles between interventions, so an improvement of 2 miles with V12.5. And if you look at critical disengagement, Tesla was at 189 miles with V12.3.6. So it decreased to 128 miles with V12.5. So we're going backwards right now. We're not even going forward. And now you have to bring the idea of what is a critical necessary intervention or disengagement. And that's really problematic because you look at the crowdsourced data actually tries to classify them, and there's a lot of like navigation-based error, which like people don't want to count or something. But like the navigation is going to be part of the self-driving experience. You need to enter, I want to go there. Well, it needs to figure out how to go there. And if they start making mistake, like it's not good. So I would need to include that too. But all right, sure. Let's not put them in the critical ones because there's no accident that's going to happen potentially. The big problem with that is Tesla can like reduce performance to boost that potentially. And that's what we're seeing right now with the new V12.5.2 that is supposed to bring a 3x improvement in miles between necessary disengagement. So necessary disengagement doesn't include disengaging for comfort, for frustration, which are two big reasons people disengage FSD, because it's driving too slow. And V12.5.2 is known to drive like 10, sometimes 10 plus miles under the speed limit, which is gonna facilitate the performance of the system and reduce this intervention per mile, as long as people don't disengage based on frustration or comfort. So that's very problematic to me, and I think it's skewed the data. And then you also have to look at like how much miles do you need between disengagement to actually achieve an unsupervised system, and that's where people are all over the place. Like I think like at the minimum it's like between 50 and 100,000 miles, which would need at least a 390 multiplicator over the current performance. So even with an exponential growth, we're still years away from that. And some people are talking about like 200, 300, 500,000 miles between disengagement to make sense for an unsupervised system the way that Tesla is talking about, which, doesn't seem like I can even put a timeline on that based on the current improvement rate that we're seeing. So yeah, that's the main reason I'm like just not at all hyped about this the program right now, the FSD program right now. I just don't put a lot of value in it at the moment. I'm open to see improvement. Oh yeah, speaking of, so right after the last podcast last week, Bloomberg revealed that Tesla is gonna hold the Robotaxi unveiling on October 10th at the Warner Brother lot in Los Angeles. And so a lot of people are making reference to like the Universal lot. I think they did the solar roof unveiling that turned out to be a little bit fake. So a lot of people are like, oh, they're doing the same thing now with this Robotaxi. And not to help that cause, Green, our friend Green, the famous Tesla hacker, often reveals new feature based on the source code of the software, says that Tesla has launched a new data collection campaign called WB Studio that is specifically, so, there's a lot of people talk about the shadow mode in Tesla's FSD, where even if you're not using FSD, the shadow mode is running and collecting data on the driving experience and all that. And that's true. There is like a broader shadow mode that's tried to get some specific like events to try to teach the neural nets how to handle them. But they also do campaigns that like they're looking specifically at areas, which we talked about that. There was a CNBC report a few months ago that revealed that Tesla had like specific campaigns and data annotation resources focused specifically on Elon Musk, specifically on VIPs that turn out to be Tesla influencers that post video FSD, that skew the data towards them. And now they're doing one called WB Studio, and that collects data specifically around the area where Tesla is going to hold the event. So a lot of people are saying that Tesla is going to optimize it, so it's going to look better than it actually will the average experience because of that, which seem fair. And obviously, a lot of people are linking that to the 2016 video that launched this whole thing, where Tesla launched all our cars are going to be capable of self-driving going forward, with this video demonstration that was later shown to have been, we already knew that Tesla was optimizing for that route and everything, but there was a lawsuit over this, and Ashok Eswamani, the director of autopilot at Tesla, said that the intent of the video was not accurately portrayed what was available for customers in 2016. It was to portray what was possible to build into the system, and he confirmed that Tesla was using a predetermined route with 3D mapping ahead of time in order to optimize for that route. So a lot of people are seeing the same thing here. I think the truth probably lies in between. Like Tesla is doing that, because why would you not try to look the best as possible?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have to be honest with it. And like that, what we're showing you right now is not going to be the experience, because obviously a lot of people in 2016, when they saw that, they thought they would have that in their car within the next few months, the next few years maximum. And then we still don't have that, at least not unsupervised 8 years later.
Yeah, and a lot of the criticism that Tesla folks lob at Waymo is that Waymo maps areas before they do their full self-driving, which there's Waymo cars. So I was just in LA. There's just Waymo cars just driving around with people all the time, like nobody in the driver's seat, Just
You didn't
go
try
like,
it?
I never had I didn't really want to. I should have tried it, but I was just like, whenever I needed a Lyft or a Uber, I was like, I need one now. I can't download the app. I should have. And they
Yeah,
were all over the
I see
place.
it.
They are like not hard to find, and they're just riding around. There's nobody in
Mhm.
there, and it's just happening. Like it's not like science fiction. It's already done. I mean,
Yeah,
it has
it's
tons of hardware on the roof, but
yeah. I mean, it's harder to replicate, and it's harder to scale up because of all that stuff. But it's not also impossible. It's very doable, and with scale will come also profitability and all that. Like it's not the Waymo model also makes sense to me. It's not like one or the other. They both make sense, but Tesla only makes sense if they solve the self-driving problem, which they haven't. And
yeah, I mean, they're both going toward the same place. Like Waymo's got to
yeah,
kind of like pare down its hardware to make it more efficient, and Tesla has to, kind of upgrade its software to
software.
be better. But I mean, that's where they're converging. And I think Andrew Karpathy said something about it this week.
Yeah,
Although
he
he
said
said,
that Tesla is a software problem and Waymo's a hardware problem.
right, yeah, that's kind of where I got
I think
that.
that's fair. I mean, they're both working on both software and hardware. Also, let's
I
be
don't
honest.
agree with his thing though that the hardware is a harder thing to fix. I think the hardware is
Yeah,
an
yeah, you did
easier
say.
thing.
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
I kind of think the software is the hard part. The
Yeah, because
hardware is
if
the easy. The software is the hard.
yeah, because Waymo went overboard with the hardware
Yep.
to make it work before looking at profitability. Now they're looking at like how can we scale everything down to still have as much performance as possible for safety reasons and still make this a profitable business.
You know, there's no news here, but I was at the Volvo event. We're going to talk about the EX90 later,
Yeah,
but
it's coming.
they have a bunch of lidar in their, like Volvo does, and they're also big partners with Google. And Volvo, I mean, they were kind of like making, like, hey, think about like what's out there, who's doing the best stuff, and who's got the good hardware. And they were kind of saying, you should think about, like that kind of stuff. It wasn't actually the Volvo people, it was the lidar people. We're
Mm.
like, this is the future. It's superhuman. We're not going to get, if you have technology that's as good as humans, people aren't going to trust it. But if it's superhuman, it's going to be, more trusted. Well, we'll obviously see, but
Yeah, no, I get the point. All right, today we saw a lot more Cybertruck, Tesla semi trucks coming out of the pilot factory in Nevada. So it's just surprising because even though the Tesla semi has been in production since almost 2 years now, in late 2022, it's been only in production in that pilot factory, which we had some exclusive report a few years ago that said that Tesla had the capacity to build about 5 trucks per week, but it clearly was struggling that capacity below that because we haven't seen that many not many Tesla semi trucks on the road. Tesla is mostly using them in its own operations, and also PepsiCo has a few. We saw some deliveries to Walmart, Costco, Martin Bauer, and Cisco in the last few months, but I'm not sure if they are keeping those trucks or they're just like temporary lending them for testing. I think that's more likely. But now Henrik Zane on X posted he flies drones over the Tesla facilities in Nevada often, and he spotted 26 brand new Tesla semis at the prototype production line this week, which is the most Tesla semi we ever seen ever. So we don't know why. This could be a few reasons. Obviously, the volume factory is being built right next to it, and that's where the Tesla semi is going to come in volume, starting production next year. So maybe that, as Tesla is putting the factory together, designing the production line, everything, maybe Tesla is testing new production runs at the pilot factory in order to refine his production line design for the volume factory. That could be a possibility. Maybe the designs are all locked in and they're just producing more trucks on the pilot lines to send out to customers for testing ahead of like going through with their fleet orders as the volume production become ready. Something like that. Both of these explanations sounds possible to me. But yeah, I'm very hyped about the Tesla Semi. This is one of the programs that Tesla I'm most hyped about, because Tesla, in terms of like delivering EVs in volume, and to do that in volume, you have to be profitable with your EVs. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to sell millions of EVs. Tesla is the leader on that. With BYD, with a few Chinese competitors too, or with the Koreans also coming with profitability now. So there's some competitors, but Tesla is the leader with that. So even though there are other Class 8 electric trucks out there right now, I think that Tesla is probably going to be the one that's going to be the most impactful in terms of volumes. So yeah, I'm hyped about that. I think that's going to be a big story. Maybe not as much next year, but probably in 2026 or something like that. All right, a quick mention of this rumor. Yeah.
Did we do the Ask Smart Summon one?
Well, we kind of talked about it a little bit in the other post, and
right.
I kind of want to skip it because we're only like 40 minutes in, and we're still on the Tesla stuff, so it's not that deal. So it's something that's already available in like non-vision Tesla vehicles. Now it's available in vision vehicles, and it's actually smart. So it's a little bit better, but the improvement are actually coming in the future to make it a real difference with the non-vision stuff. So it's not that big of a deal. But this is a 6-seat Model Y, which would be new. That it's coming out of a new report coming from the supply chain in China via Reuters. They are saying that in late 2025, Tesla is planning with the refresh of the Model Y having a 6-seat variant in there for the Chinese market. Not sure if it's going to make it to other markets. We also learned this week that a 7-seater version is going to come to the Chinese market. Obviously, we already have a 7-seater version in the US. It's not very popular because it is barely a third row. It's like only suitable for children, really. Very, very small adults. And it's only in the US, but now it's apparently going to come in China with the refresh. So hopefully the refresh, somehow Tesla figured out how to squeeze a little bit more space in the interior, maybe. And that maybe gonna result in a little bit bigger third row. That's gonna be a more useful 7-seater, and now apparently a 6-seater. I don't know where they would do a 6-seater from, because that would be like captain seats in the middle.
Yeah, I like that idea. I mean, I actually like captain's chairs because it makes the third row, which obviously if you're gonna have 6 seats, it makes the third row less claustrophobic because you can kind of scoot your legs in between, or get to the middle row through the middle area. So I like, for me, if unless you need that 7th seat, 6-seat is kind of the way to go, in my opinion.
Yeah, good point. All right, moving on. You had some time in the brand new Volvo EX90, and you came out impressed, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to love about it. We've been kind of eyeballing this car since I think they talked about it in 2022. If you're a family and you take kids to soccer games and stuff, you need the 7 seats. This is built on the same platform as the Polestar 3, which is already out, but the Polestar 3 only comes in a 5-seat configuration. This obviously 7-seater is more geared towards kids. This one's a little bit slower than the Polestar, not much, but it's, one of the things. So Jamie Dow, who lives in Newport, where this event happened, rolled in. We had some nice meals, and we also drove around this Volvo EX90. And the thing that I think both of us were just pained by was that they had muted the acceleration on it, and for everything else, we were driving 85, 90 miles per hour. It felt like we were going 50 or 60. Smoothest car I've been in a long time, if ever. Quiet inside, just really, really well done car. But man, I feel like, the EX30, for instance, goes over a second faster in a 0-60. This is a $35,000 car. This car they're selling for $80,000 to $90,000. Like,
Mm-hmm.
come on, guys. Like, you need to have acceleration. And of course, I bring that up to Volvo and they're like, we're about safety. We're not about acceleration. And I'm like, I know, like, that's fine. But like, it's also a thing, like, you want your foot to be able to control the acceleration, not like some algorithm that, you put in there. And, basically I would just put the accelerator on the floor when I would, take off from and it was like, it was like a 5 second 0 to 60, which is fine. Like, it's certainly good, but $80,000 car, I kind of want to feel the acceleration a little bit more. I'm spoiled, like, I've got a Rivian R1S and that goes 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. I've got a Model Y, even a Chevy Bolt, pretty fast off the line. So
That's peppy. And you have a LiDAR on this thing.
yeah, it kind of looks like a taxi or something. I don't think people were like, doing that kind of thing, but
Mm-hmm.
it does seem like, hey, what is this thing? But you know, the LiDAR folks were extremely like, hey, this is a very important piece of, this is a big safety thing. And of course, Volvo is always touting its safety. There, you could see a little writing below the LiDAR thing saying Volvo for life there. That's kind of their safety tagline, I guess. And so, for me, that's a little much. But, this is the same company that does invented the 3-point harness, and they do the yellow one. So they really want you to think about safety when you think
I
about
think
Volvo.
in the Volvo EX90 on the seatbelt it says like since 1959 or something like that when they invented it, like just to
Yeah,
remind everyone we did that. To be fair, they open sourced it right away to everyone, which was the right
good for
thing to
them.
do,
Like,
obviously.
that's great.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
probably saved countless lives.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So they deserve the props. But at the same time, like, I don't know if that really adds to the aesthetic. But anyway,
The
great
sand
car.
looking one is nice. Yeah, it's nice looking.
Yeah, I thought it was a great looking car, and they actually had a third one, which they didn't like. It was kind of in a weird place. That was like this maroon red, but it almost looked black. It's like a really deep red one. But that was the six
Yeah.
seater, and that had it had two captain's chairs in the middle. And I, of course, like I said with the Model Y, I think that's the go-to
Mhm.
configuration.
The
Another,
interior of the Volvo is just
yes,
mwah. It's beautiful.
super nice. Like, some blend of luxury, but also minimalist. Really good materials, clean source materials. Jamie, of course,
He looks a
volunteered
little
to.
bit tight in the back. Jamie is like what, like 6 foot, something like that?
Yeah, Jamie's 6 foot, and he's pretty, like, he's a svelte guy.
Yeah.
So if
Well, he
he's feeling,
fits.
he fits. And later on we tried the 6-seater, and he fit.
Mm-hmm.
He was way more comfortable there.
Yeah.
You can move the middle row up quite a bit, but everybody in that row is going to be tight as well. So
Crown.
it's a trade-off. Like, it's not a super huge vehicle. Third row there is a little rough. But getting to the airport or the grocery store or soccer game, no problem. One thing I didn't like, the frunk. One thing is that you have to open it like a trunk, or sorry, like a hood.
Like a regular hood. Like,
Yeah, there's no like button to do it. And
Yeah.
then the other thing is, like, it's not deep at all, so you can't put groceries in it. It's good for a charging cable or some tire repair stuff, but not good for everyday use. I think
Mm-hmm.
most people won't use it. Like, for instance, the Rivian, that's where I put my groceries. And for this thing, I would put them in the back. Good news is lots of room in the back, especially with the second row down. There's a huge stroller, if you're not watching, that fits back there. And there's even more room below the false floor.
Yeah, it's like that's a double stroller, right?
Yeah.
Looks
I
huge.
mean, it's a big back. You can probably fit a bike in there with a second row up.
Mm.
So no worries. It's a big vehicle. The center stack is Android for automotive, which most people find good. Like, obviously Google Maps is kind of the gold standard. And all your Spotify, they're going to get Apple Music, but even better, they will project CarPlay on there as well. So you can have iOS running on Android, which is, a lot of stuff, but works well. If you're watching, there's a picture of the 360 cam, which kind of interprets what's around you, and it's a little bit janky. And I think there's probably some software updates coming down the pike.
Yeah, because
And
that's the biggest distortion I've ever seen on a 360.
yeah, it was kind of wild. But they said there's some software coming for that.
Yeah,
So,
well, that I think that's one of the biggest thing that always stopped me from going from another EV than Tesla is just software. I think the software is amazing, and Tesla
yep.
Rivian is obviously the second best, I think, and maybe they are catching up. I don't know. I'm not as familiar with their software, and we're gonna talk about the Rivian software a little bit because they had a big update this week. They're also at least focused on it. I think that Tesla and then Rivian and the shift in the industry has forced the industry to be more focused in it. But like being focused in it and being actually successful in delivering the features is two different things. And now you've seen those that are still invested in that, and you've seen those that have given up and given that to Google. And I think at least with Google, I would be more. I'd be more secure that there's going to be a lot of updates coming. I think on this. Would that be fair? You think?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, as I alluded to before, Google may be like, "Hey, do you want some self-driving stuff? We've got some good software there too." So we'll
That would
see.
make sense. You already have the LiDAR on this thing.
Yep.
Are they talking right now about what kind of level of autonomous they want to get from that current hardware?
They were super vague about it, and it doesn't have like the autopilot or whatever it is on there now is not great. So I don't know what's coming from that. They were pretty quiet about the self-driving stuff. Let's see what else is there. Oh yeah, Jamie's in the comments. He feels like the acceleration was fine in performance mode.
Well,
there are
but
other
performance mode or is that the modes here, or is that a different trim?
Those are two different trims, but
Okay.
performance mode was, I guess a little bit better. For me, it wasn't good enough.
On the performance trim, or do you have a performance mode on the normal all-wheel drive too?
I don't know that for sure, but we were in the twin motor performance vehicles, so and then he mentions he fits well in small spaces. He did not fit well in the rear seat, but I feel like Jamie, you were better in the 6-seat configuration that we tried later. He also says he had a good talk with their software head, and I think his head was in the right place, but I'm always skeptical of any other company's software efforts. Need to see them ship updates first.
Mm-hmm.
And then one more, and also with one of the ADAS heads, I think they're taking it slow with the updates there.
Yeah, I mean, they probably want to roll out some ADAS safety features first, knowing Volvo.
Yep.
That makes sense. There's bidirectional charging on this thing?
Yeah, so not only bidirectional, but like we're talking really powerful bidirectional. So 20 kilowatts, I think they said. I might need to check that because that seems like a lot. But they had this demo at the event of a decibel bi-directional charger, and then it would take, it had like a 400-volt bus that would send into a battery or pull stuff from solar. So it was kind of the controller of all the 400-volt DC electricity coming in and out of the house, which I thought was pretty interesting. It's something we've talked about a lot before. So a product like this that needs to happen, and of course, if I ever get time, I'm going to get a hold of. It's called DC Bell, like decibel.
So that's the system that we're watching right now. So that's the name of it, DC Bell. Is that the name of the company, or?
Yeah, it's called DC Bell, but it's pronounced decibel. I don't know.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But yeah, so anyway,
so overall, your thought on the Volvo EX90, if you compare them to probably your Rivian R1S would be the best comparison. The Kia EV9,
and the
X maybe.
Yeah, and then Mercedes model EQS SUV, maybe the BMW iX or the Audi Q8. So really good in a lot of areas. Very tempting. I like the look of it. I love the drive. Super smooth, super quiet. Acceleration not as good. We didn't take it off road, and it was kind of like one of those things we were tempted to do, but we also didn't want to get in trouble, and they didn't tell us that we could go off road. So I don't know. We didn't do it, but it also charged. We set up at a fast charger at 180 kilowatts, and it's supposed to go up to 250. So not sure about that either. But I walked away from the event thinking, like when it's time for the Rivian to be over, is this something that I would want? And I think it is. Like the price point is a little high, but you get a lot of really nice stuff, and the drive is just so smooth and so quiet. It's got really good torque vectoring, so the turns are really smooth, really soft, just really good all over. And of course, safety is very important to me.
Yeah, I mean, you're not the only one who says that. I've heard some really great things from everyone that got the experience in the EX90 the last few weeks.
Yeah,
this thing is coming to dealers right now, right? It's like,
yep, people are gonna get the first people who lined up are gonna get them in the next month, and then I think there's like a 9-month wait if you order one now.
Yeah, so it's kind of limited.
Get in line.
All right, we're gonna have a few more news items to discuss, and then we're gonna jump into the comment section. We're already 55 minutes in the show, so we're gonna try to move a little bit quick here because I know everyone wants to get into their weekend. If you do have a question for us, you can put them in the comment section right now, and we're gonna appreciate it. If it can be about any other topic that we discussed today, or something else you want to discuss in the EV industry that you want to take in. If you do enjoy the Electrek Podcast and you want to help us, it helps more than you think if you just hit the like button right now, the thumbs up, whatever it is on the app you're watching, because we are live everywhere. And if you are listening to your podcast app right now, like Apple Podcasts, if you can give us a 5-star rating, only if you appreciate the show, of course, that also helps a ton, more than you think. Unless you think that it helps a little, because it actually just helps a little, not that much. But all right, Volvo. Speaking of Volvo, they had this little event this week where they they updated their EV plans, and they backtracked it a little bit, not too much to be fair, because Volvo had this plan of being all electric by 2030, so only selling all electric cars by 2030. Now they are updating that to 90 to 100%. So they're just being a little bit more cautious. They're like, all right, we have 5 years now, 6 years, 6 years. Maybe we'll not get quite to 100. We're going to try to get to 90. And they are also including PHEVs. So that might be the bigger change here, because, of course, the EX90 also has a PHEV version, right? Or is it called the EX90 too?
Yeah, well, it's called the XC90.
XC90, okay. So they have PHEV version of their other cars too. But they're calling it all cars with a cord. That's what they're saying. Yeah, so they haven't talked too much about the mix. They're going to be a limited. So in that other 10%, it's going to be a limited number of hybrids. So there's going to be up to 100%, but they said between 90 and 100% electric, so it's not really clear. But in that last 10%, possible 10%, they should be hybrids. But they are also launching a bunch of new cars, including the EX60 midsize SUV and the ES90 sedan, so a bigger sedan, electric sedan, and the EX60. They actually unveiled. I think we had it in our next post, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. So this is going to be probably a big one. So very big segment. This is the Model Y segment. This is the Mustang Mach-E segments. This is the crossover midsize SUV segment. It's going to be on the next gen SPA3 platform that is expected to support a lot of Volvo's next gen electric vehicles. What do we know? I don't think they released any specs or anything like that on the... No, we don't have that just yet. It's coming in 2026, I think. Yeah, 2026. So probably next year we're going to have an unveiling on this thing with the specs.
Yeah, and it's going to take the place of the XC60, or sorry, the XC60 and the C60.
We have a new 2025 Hyundai IONIQ 5 coming, and it's a decent update. You have a new trim, the XRD, which is kind of an off-road trim, a bit like what Mustang did what Ford did with the Mustang Mach-E Rally recently. You have that now with the IONIQ 5, but there's a lot of other things. So first of all, first car confirmed to have the NACS standard in the vehicle. So the IONIQ 5 2025 as NACS. So that's big news because it's coming very, very soon in Q4 2024. So in the next few months, you're going to see the first non-Tesla vehicle with NACS as standard. You have a few interior updates. Apparently, so new material options and all that. Apparently, there's more physical buttons. So I've driven very briefly the IONIQ 5, so I'm not that familiar with it. I cannot compare it in my mind directly. But apparently, the big thing is a little bit more physical button rather than touchscreen based stuff. So for those that like that, that's good. New HVAC system, more HVAC system control that are physical, heated rear seat, updated steering wheel, new infotainment system, now 12.3 inches with wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto support. This is the new XRT, so the off-road version. So what is it, like a little bit more suspension, different wheels, and updated, very different front bumpers. It changed the look of the car a lot because the IONIQ 5 is very boxy, very crisp, very sharp. This gives it a different look with this bumper. But the quarter rear look is beautiful though. Really like it. The specs is okay. You have 23 millimeters more suspension lift. This says.
Rick McDonald in the comments says it does not have more underbody protection like the Mach-E Rally.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, I don't know how much you want to take this off-road. I reviewed it, didn't a full review. I did more of a first drive of the Rally, and I'd be willing to get the Rally over the GT on the Mustang for the price increase, even with the 10, 20 miles less range, just for the on-road suspension experience, not even the off-road. It's just so smooth. It's incredible. So I don't know how much people actually take these things off-road. I'm sure some do that. So the battery capacity is a big upgrade for 2025 here. We're talking about 63 kilowatt hour for the base version versus 58. So, good 5 kilowatt hour more. And even more so for the bigger battery, which went from 77.4 to 84 kilowatt hour. So they're talking about a range of over 310 miles. Up for 303 from the previous version, but they say over. So until you have the EPA, we just don't know over by how much. The standard range gonna get probably over 20 miles boost at over 240, and then the all-wheel drive. Well, the all-wheel drive could actually get below.
Yeah, I think that's going to go way up.
Yeah, it's going to change. I think they're being very conservative with their estimates right now because when they say over, it's generally over.
Yeah, they always want to under-deliver and under-promise, over-deliver.
Exactly, yeah. They don't say anything about the charging, but I mean the charging experience on the IONIQ 5 on all of Hyundai and Kia's vehicle is top notch right now, and they're going to be a lot better with native access to the supercharger network too. All right, Jamie put together a post on a survey about EVs that was released by YouGov that tells us that we have a lot of work to do at Electrek still. That one of the biggest hurdles for EVs is still information. It's still the gasoline car drivers, petrol car drivers, because this is a UK survey, are just unaware of a lot of things. So nearly 2/3, 62% of petrol drivers believe that it's more expensive to own and run an EV, which is obviously false. Now, of course, the buying price, the sticker price can be higher. Generally not once you apply the incentive, depending on where you are. And then when you talk about the operation cost, normally it's slashed. Now, this can be different for everyone, obviously. If you're gonna rely on DC fast charging, if you're a city dweller and you don't have like a home charging situation, the difference in cost saving is a lot slimmer depending on your DC charging solution and the prices, because the prices are kind of wild these days, especially with the increased cost of electricity in some places. But home charging is going to give you some tremendous fuel savings that are going to make the overall expenses much cheaper for electric vehicles, like 90% of the time. 41% of petrol drivers incorrectly think that EVs are more likely to catch fire than petrol. Wow. 41%, that's sad.
Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah. More than 59% of petrol drivers thought the UK's electricity grid will not be able to cope. 59%. Yeah, that's a petrol, that's a fossil fuel industry talking point for a while. It's like, we're not ready to go all electric, because you go check Norway, for example. 95% of their vehicle last month were all electric, and they're doing pretty fine. EVs are part of the solution of the growing demand for electricity. They're not part of the problem. There's some markets that already had issues with their grid, like California and Texas, for example, that can be exacerbated by electric vehicles, but they're not the main problem. The main problem is the grid itself as issues right now. And then when you have period of like extreme heat or extreme cold, depending on the region, that's where the problem occurs. But if you're ready for it and you employ like load controllable load, pricing that are better overnight, because most EVs are going to charge overnight when the demand for electricity is super low anyway. All of these things like solve your problem. And then if you had the bidirectional charging issue, the problem, then it's actually a plus for the grid and not a negative. So I don't know why this is so hard to understand for petrol drivers. I like saying petrol drivers. 80% of petrol drivers think that the UK is not on course to install the charging infrastructure it needs. Well, that actually not that familiar with the charging in the UK. So despite the country being ahead of schedule to hit the target of 300,000 chargers in the UK road by 2030. Okay. Well, what does that mean, though, 300,000 chargers? Level 2, level 3? I don't know. More drivers, 35%, incorrectly believe that EV's lifetime CO2 emission are less than those of a petrol car.
Or no less.
Or no less than, okay. So 35% think that petrol cars produce less CO2 than EVs? Jeez.
Yeah, it's rough.
The propaganda is working great in the UK. 35% is a lot. I thought that was like a very small minority that thought that still thought that. So yeah, a lot more. We need a lot more information to be spread out about EVs, to people understand their positive impact and their lower cost too. This week, Rivian launched a big new update that was that brings a lot more features to the first gen vehicles and the next gen vehicles that were released a few months ago. You can go to their website, and I really like the way that Rivian releases their software. You can, as it rolls out, obviously when it rolls out and you have it on your car, most drivers, they just don't look into that stuff. They just get the update on their phone and then install it in their car, and that's it. And they know what's new from that. But there's a lot of EV nerds like yourself wants to know what's coming before it actually comes to a car, and they have this very cool tool now that they have where you can just exactly what model year you have. You click on it, and you know what's coming exactly. So in this case, for Gen 1, you have customized the color theme inside your vehicle. So the accent light are now customizable. I don't know if they are limited in the kind of customization, because I know this was available to Gen 2 vehicle, but they told us, like, the interior designer at Rivian vetoed some colors that they wouldn't let the owners do because they don't like the look it gives to the car. So I don't know how much customization is available, but some customization is available. Gen 2 Rivian owners are getting the launch mode. So I did try the launch mode on the R1T and R1S on a racetrack, on a drag strip a few months ago, and it was insane.
Yep.
It's way more power than you would ever need inside of a vehicle that big. You have what else do you have for both generation? Okay, these are the updates for both generations. So increase accuracy of traffic data, improve route color coding, cabin fan speed now has 3 different options, while the climate system is on auto mode. Even if you change fan speed, the climate system will now remain in auto. The cabin temperature limit for pet mode has been lowered to 63 Fahrenheit, controllable from the center display or the ribbon hub. Improve battery performance during aggressive driving in the high exterior temperature. Oh, that's cool. While not in park, you can now use your phone hotspot for internet connectivity. Oh, okay. So you could do that before in park, but now you can do it moving. Improve reliability of the gear guard app. Okay. More efficiency when using defrost and defog mode on the windshield. Improve accuracy of the estimated remaining charge time of an active climate schedule. Improve smoothness of re-engaging highway assist over lane change. Oh, that's good. Stability improvement of the backup camera view. Nice. Estimated charging costs now appear on the center display when you begin a session. Oh, a lot of good stuff. A lot of good stuff coming to Rivian owners.
Yeah, I just downloaded it yesterday and haven't yet tried it, but looking forward to it.
Nice. All right, one more piece of news before we get into the comment section. So get your comments ready. We are and your question. We're about to get into it. So just like Volvo readjusted their EV plans, now Toyota is apparently doing it too. Not officially, it's not an official report, but Japan's Nikkei publication just as a new report that says that Toyota communicated to suppliers that they plan to build 500,000 fewer electric cars by 2026 than initial plans. So they're telling them to adjust based on that. So the goal was to produce 1 million EVs by 2026. Wait. So the line says 30% reduction. Okay, no, they updated that plan recently to 1.5 million EVs. Okay, that makes more sense. Now the math add up. So now 500,000 less would be about 30% less, yeah. So now they are planning to build 400,000 EVs in 2025 and doubling that number by the end. That's still 1.4. That makes no sense.
Cool.
Yeah. Anyway, Toyota is not a leader in EVs anyway. Like, I don't trust them to have any significant impact anytime soon. I don't know if you've driven the BZ4X yet.
I haven't, and I'm zero interest. Not zero. I want to try
They
it.
they do have the drive-by-wire option. It's an option, though, but it's pretty cool. Not as cool as the Cybertruck, though.
Yeah, I mean, Toyota kind of kills it with the Prius and the RAV4 plug-in hybrids. I think those are, as far as plug-ins go, I think those are solid. Like almost 50 miles of electric range on those. So, all right. First of all, we got to talk about your article. Really liked your article. Very well written, and I completely agree. I think I've never seen so many people like get a strike a chord, and that's like, I have to, I'm a little bit jealous because that's my favorite thing in writing is when a lot of people are like, yes, that's what I was thinking, or I didn't know I was
it makes
thinking
sense to me because I was thinking it for so long. It was in my head for so long, and all the pieces were like, and then as soon as I put all the pieces together in my head, I was like, all right, I have to sell. So, so the fact that I was thinking about it for so long, and then I put all the pieces together, I think it talked a lot for it connected with a lot of people who were like, yeah, I thought that too. I thought that, well, maybe, like we have the same thinking process here. So yeah, it connected with a lot of people.
All right, we're going to move kind of quick through the comments. We're already way over. Carl in San Diego, self-driving cars aren't more sustainable. The real-world effect of self-driving personally owned cars will be that their owners can and will use them for more miles, which increases energy usage. Yeah, but electric usage. So, for instance, commuters will tolerate longer commutes, or trying to use them like taxi will create deadhead miles. Yeah. We talked about the 8% hit today. I don't think it's
not my fault.
I don't think it's 100% Fred's fault. We'll leave it at that now. All right. Alex Diaz can sum up your article in 3 words. Elon's a grifter.
I
I think
To be
that's
honest, Alex, my article is about a lot more than that.
oversimplification.
Yeah.
Agreed that the vote from shareholders was shocking and for me suspicious. First, Tesla spent a lot of time, money coercing the vote for Elon's money, and then they announced it would pass before it closed. Yeah,
And also they made it sound to shareholders like, you're gonna vote for it, it's gonna be reinstated, and that's it. And that has yet to happen. Like that was not true, and that was never gonna be true. And we probably won't know until November, I think, the judge decision. But from what I've heard so far, it's going towards no, that
Right.
the vote doesn't reinstate the package. So we'll see, and then it's going to go to the Supreme Court, so the Delaware Supreme Court.
All right. What's
Delaware
bizarre is that so many people still believe the company lives or dies based on Elon's presence. That's sycophant thinking, not people who actually understand. He doesn't do it all, but pretends. It's a good point.
Yeah.
He's not even there most of the time.
He's undoubtedly a part-time CEO. Like
Yeah.
you cannot. It's physically impossible.
All right. The supervillain is a great crossover comic book concept. Iron Man to Lex Luthor. Heel turn.
That's true. That's true.
21st Century Citizen Kane. I usually listen to the podcast recording, but seen a few videos a while back. So surprised to see Seth without the beard. Looks younger, thinner, and completely different. Thank you. That made my Friday. All right. I didn't think the point was that Elon is a grifter. It's that he lives in a bubble. I'd add that he is probably smoking too much dope and taking too much ketamine. That
Yeah,
can't help.
I didn't include that in my article, the ketamine stuff. Like, I think his real addiction is social media. I don't think he's a drug guy that much.
And Skeptic also adds the real problem is that he literally thinks he's the smartest person on earth. So why would he bother listening to anybody?
I don't know if that's what he thinks, but that's the problem, is that it's what his sycophant thinks, and then his sycophant tell him that. Like, how many times I do a very fair critic of Elon doing something, and then the response is, I get 100 response from his sycophants that are like, you're not as intelligent as him, so your critique doesn't apply. Like, it doesn't work like that, people. You know, intelligence, it's not an absolute thing. You're not
right, and it's not a one-dimensional.
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff going on. Yeah,
you can be the smartest person on earth, and like, you cannot tie your shoe. Like, you don't know how to tie your shoe. It's as simple as that. Like, it's not an absolute thing.
Do you think FSD is fraudulent? I'm not sure personally. I think they're on the hook for only the price difference between enhanced autopilot and full self-driving, and maybe less as they unlock features and revenue.
So that's the tough question, because there's always the argument. You're right. Like, that's the bare minimum, I think, that you just mentioned. But there's always the argument that people can bring, that I bought the whole car thinking that it was going to be self-driving. So, you know, if they cannot do it, if they literally cannot, there's an argument to be made too. So I think some people are going to sue Tesla for the whole cars too. I think that's my. But fraudulent, like, I don't know if it's like a mistake. It can be a mistake. It's not necessarily fraud, but where I think that you go into more of the fraud area is, for example, like this intervention thing, like telling people like, you get a 3x improvement on intervention, but we're not even tell you the base rate of intervention. So like those things are kind of a little bit more fraud area, I think.
And to expand on that, I think that's also why they are launching in different areas to lock in the revenue before trying to get autonomy approval. The money people paid went to development and wasn't used fraudulently. Yeah. Electric Brian says, I have a 1,000-mile road trip next weekend. I'm hoping to get end-to-end highway in time, still on 12.3.6. There was a way we used to, like, if we wanted to get an update, we would drive to like the Tesla place and get on their Wi-Fi. And I feel like that, like, they would give the latest updates on that, but I don't know if that's the case anymore.
Yeah, but also I'm confused with the roadmap, because they said that 15.2 is like is coming this month, and it is. There's some people that already got it, so that's probably through. But then they say end-to-end highway is also coming this month, but it's not clear if it's in 15.2. I don't know that that's the case. So And if they just announced that it's coming this month, like your chance of it coming next week is not good.
Yeah. All right. I haven't seen much recently about Tesla Energy, grid storage, Powerwall, etc. Any updates there? I think we talked last week about Powerwall output.
Yeah, we
Maybe.
talked about the Powerwall now being able to produce 700,000 per year. We often report on new megapack project. We maybe not as much anymore because there's a ton of them, and we report on quarterly growth of the megapack because I think that's
Or
a little
all-time
bit.
largest ones or whatever.
Yeah, when there's a huge one because there's a ton of new project every time, and it's not that interesting. But it is good. Like Tesla Energy is, I'm very hyped about. Like I said, Tesla Semi program, Tesla Energy. There's still other things I'm really hyped about at Tesla product wise. It's just that I don't know how much is going to contribute to the growth of the company at this valuation right now without self-driving. Like Elon says, Tesla, if you don't believe that Tesla can solve self-driving soon, probably shouldn't be an investor. I listen to him. I listen to Elon.
Yeah. All right. Next question. Are they already on the hook? No way that FSD is coming to older hardware ever. They could be liable even if the statements were mistaken rather than intentional lies.
Yeah, the older hardware is a different story. I think it's fairly clear at this point that Tesla is not going to be able to deliver on its promises for hardware 3. We have no indication of what Tesla's plan on that front. It's not clear if they're still like being delusional about it, if they are prepping us for it. The sycophants are prepping us for it, telling that Elon even never promised full self-driving on hardware 3. So this is a bit worrying because
we have recordings.
Elon...
This was like before AI could. I guess.
Yeah, maybe it's gonna be a deep fake and all that.
Deep fake, right?
Elon's lawyers have already tried to use that before.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's a little bit worrying, but I find it hard to believe that they'll be able to weasel their way out of that one. I think they're gonna have to have a very good plan to compensate those people, whether it's a retrofit or it's an actual just refunds. I don't know, but I think probably refunds are going to be coming.
All right, Jesse C. Strand says, I watched an EX90 review from Out of Spec. They said that they get to the full 250 kilowatts. It needs over 500 amps, which I guess right now only Tesla can provide. I feel like Electrify America also can do that, but maybe that's only 800 volts. Interesting. Nick Cedar, okay, this one I want you to answer and me to answer at the same time. Who would be your dream CEO replacement candidate at Tesla? 3, 2, 1. JB Straubel. Yeah. Okay.
My only thing with JB is like, what is he doing on the board right now? Like in the last he's been on the board for like 2 years now. He's been back. Like he was gone since 2019. He's gone for like 2 years, 3 years maybe, and then comes back on the board. And I have no faith in the board right now. Now, obviously, I'm not attacking JB here because I don't know him. And he might be fighting back for us on the board and like trying to do something. He's just outnumbered, so he cannot do. So I'm not. There might be some good people on the board right now. I'm not, or people that are not. I shouldn't say good people. Like obviously, they're people that are working for the reasonable Tesla investors. It might be possible, and then it's just not working because they're being outnumbered. So I don't know, but I also think there's a possibility that he's. You drink the Kool-Aid too. I don't know.
All right, let's move on. We're almost done here. This Hyundai does not have more underbody pro. Yeah, we talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Boras also runs an Electrek podcast, doing a great job there. We're talking about the 18-inch wheels, slight lift, textured back rubberized plastic bumpers. It needs is the Martini graphics.
He's talking about the IONIQ 5 here.
Yeah, the Lancia Delta. Sign me up.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go. Let's move. Keep it on going. In 20 years, Hyundai will be the iPhone to Tesla's Nokia. That's a big statement. All right, Rick McDonald, $2. It was fun to listen live for the first time.
Thank you for
hit the bell icon. Hit the bell icon. Subscribe. Jamie says 30% of nothing is still nothing. I can't remember what we were talking about.
Talking about Toyota.
Oh, yeah. I read this interesting article that said Toyota's building small EV pickups for Thailand due to the Chinese competition. That would be cool.
Yeah, I don't know about Thailand specifically, but yeah, Toyota is doing some good things BEV wise in Asia and especially China right now, and some smaller East Asian markets, and then in Thailand apparently. But yeah, they're doing like what they need to do in those market regulation wise and competitive wise, but they're not. Um, it's not like a broader global commitment to BEVs. Don't want to do that. Globally, they are still talking about hydrogen and whatnot.
All right, we're almost done here. The biggest criticism I saw about your article, Fred, was that you shouldn't have had stock in Tesla as an automotive reporter. Do you care to comment about that?
Yeah, I mean, we've said several
It's
times
disclosed.
that. I mean, the first line, I think, or the second line in my article is, at Electrek, we like to disclose our biases rather than pretend we don't have any. And that's been our thing for a long time. Like we have a disclosure page, obviously, on the side too, that mention our stock holding. But yeah, we are extremely biased at Electrek towards electric vehicles, and it makes sense for us to be invested in them. Obviously, being invested in a specific one, I can understand that you could be skeptical about me, trying to hide like negative thing about Tesla because I'm invested in it. But I think that history has clearly shown that I'm not about that. That I've been, I sold yesterday. And I've been critical about Tesla for years, and I mean, I've been critical forever, but even more so in the last few years, because I thought that it was needed. I thought we needed to be critical to Tesla, and we were. So I think you can be biased, be invested, as long as you disclose it, and then history will show if it's not like we took $10 million from the Russians and started spreading Russian disinformation.
Oh yeah, yeah. Let me give Russia my bank account.
That's a crazy story, by the way. Like,
Yeah.
obviously not related to Electrek, but
Hopefully,
yeah,
maybe there might be some people out there.
I never got an email from a guy Gregorian that says going to pay us $100,000 per video to say something.
All right. Maybe one last one here. One Tesla energy update that I posted about just after the podcast went live. Rohan Ma, who made the auto builder, just left the company this week.
Yeah.
So
he was a top executive at Tesla Energy, and apparently responsible for auto bidder. And he's leaving for another company, but he haven't disclosed which one.
All right.
All right. Well, yeah, Rick, thanks to be subscribed. And I hope that everyone else can subscribe right now. If you do enjoy the show, hit that subscribe button, send us a 5-star review, and hit that like button. All those things help the show more than you think. And we appreciate you joining us for an hour and a half. We've been talking nonstop. So we're going to let you go and see you same time next week. Bye-bye.